Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. Let's get started. Tonight we have taking action, leading a lawful protest. So we're going to talk about all kinds of good things about exactly the things you need to think about and do to get started. Our vision is a future without Trump and his enablers in power. Our mission is lawful, nonviolent civil resistance of Trump and his enablers. Our values are collaboration, integrity, nonpartisanship, and professionalism. And here we are. I think we've basically introduced ourselves so far. That would be me and Nevin. Hey, Nevin.
Hey, hey. Hey guys, I'm Nev. I am the director of the Resist Trump campaign. Very pleased to share some valuable knowledge with you from experts in the field tonight, and can't wait for you to take that knowledge and turn it into action in your own communities, resisting authoritarians that we all know, and are ready to see move on in their in their offices.
Okay, the First Amendment, which is why we're all here. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, for abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And I don't have the right notes up here. But just so you know, one of the whole reasons we're here tonight is to look at that and to see exactly use those freedoms. And I am on the wrong page. I'm sorry, more technical difficulties. Nev, I'm going to stop sharing. Do you want to
Take
share your,
over. I can.
sorry.
Uh, no worries at all. Let me go ahead and no worries at all, Tracy. Let's pick up where you just left off. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you want to stop sharing, that's no problem. You should be able to see my First Amendment screen. Is that right, Tracy?
Yes, my
Okay.
problem was I couldn't find my speaker notes.
It happens. It happens to all of us. So there's no worries there.
Let
Um,
me, uh,
So as far as the First Amendment goes, as Tracy just read to you all, we are using these freedoms tonight. Actually, tonight, where you're using your First Amendment freedoms tonight. We are exercising our freedom of speech, are exercising our right to assemble peaceably, and we are exploring ways to petition the government for a redress of our grievances. So you should be proud of yourself for using your constitutional rights. And I also have a couple of comments that I want to drop in the chat regarding how the First Amendment has been interpreted to protect nonviolent civil resistance, as discussed in the article that I just put in the chat. So, uh, just to give everyone a little bit of a reorientation as to what we're doing, we are currently in the How to Become a Leader in the Trump Resistance series. If you're just dropping in now, that's great. We're actually in the eighth webinar, which is um, on the topic of taking action, running a lawful protest. And we have the optional assignment in the Google Classroom to actually run a lawful protest between now and I believe we're encouraging people to do it by this Sunday. So you still have time. And that all it takes is putting something on our Mobilize feed, which is available to you, and launching a protest in your neighborhood or in your city in a lawful way. So the first segment that we had, or the L1 level, was all about trying to get the basics down, up to hosting a get together, and then the second one we have trying to get the kind of nuts and bolts together for running a lawful protest. And then the third segment, which will start next week, will be our advanced module, where the culminating assignment will be to do what's called starting a resist pod, which is a group of 3 to 5 people willing to commit to doing direct action on a regular basis in their local area. We're going to be talking about really cool stuff coming up, like advanced media techniques, fundraising, advanced organizing and civil resistance, and then some strategies for developing your resist pod carefully and strategically. But before we get there, we have tonight's wonderful presentation where we came through doing a staying safe and de-escalation and digital security presentation, which is now, by the way, on YouTube with all of the other prior episodes. Um, Today we're going to be doing taking action, and then next week will be advanced media techniques. And it looks like we've gotten all the topics settled, so we're all set with that for tonight and for next week. So that shouldn't say TBD. It should just say determined because it's been determined. But we haven't gotten to update all of our slides, unfortunately. All right. For tonight, we've got an agenda in which we're going to be both talking about navigating permits and high visibility activism. I'm literally going to change this on the fly. High visibility activism. We will also have a breakout group, a breakout group and then a Mentimeter and in one case a Q&A after one of the speakers that's going to be speaking tonight. And I think that is the agenda for today. So all good. I hope you guys. So now we're going to get to what you actually came here for, which is to hear from our wonderful speaker. It is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker of the night, who I would like to invite to come on stage when they are able. Melody Tremayo. Melody became an activist in January of 2025 when she held her first rally at the Texas State Capitol. Since then, she has been, she has gathered tens of thousands in protest against fascism and in defense of democracy. She routinely speaks at events and committee hearings in defense of everyday Texans. Sometimes known as the Permit Queen, Melody handles nearly all permits for hands-off Central Texas. The role requires her to liaise between her fellow organizers and various city and state agencies, including local and state officials. The work suits her well. She always says she will be a state house representative one day. Melody, it is my pleasure to allow you to proceed with tonight's presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Howdy, folks. Again, my name is Melody Tremalo. Thank you for having me. So I'm going to talk about permits a little bit and how to get them. And so the first thing I want to mention is that permit acquisition is not a difficult task. If ever I've made it seem complicated, let me assure you it's not. My main tool is a search engine. After that, a can-do attitude that turns to annoyance at the bureaucracy and red tape, mixed with a solid amount of tenacity for wanting to get stuff done. Beyond that, a lackadaisical attitude towards paperwork. That's really all you need. And I've been asked multiple times to talk about this, and so I actually wrote up a little guide, and I'll be speaking from it. I have a few links that I'll post into the chat if you want to follow that. So to start off, the first thing you need to determine is if you need a permit or not. This part is probably the hardest, and so how do you know if you need a permit? Well, I Google it. Some examples of what I searched and what I found that were relevant are going into the chat right now. When I searched up Texas State Capitol permit, I got those following three links. The first one is a DPS link that goes to Capitol Access Pass. The second link is the Texas State Preservation Board, which leads to a Capitol Events request for their grounds. And then the third link is another texas.gov site that leads to more information about Capitol Access Pass permits. And this example is pretty straightforward. The first link was the most relevant and lays out the permitting process in 5 easy steps, and it's for the second link was most relevant. It lays out the permitting process in 5 easy steps, and it's for events on the Capitol. The other two, the first and the third, permits to grant quick access to the Capitol building itself, which is great, but not relevant for holding protests. The second example that I searched was Austin protest permit, and these were the three links that I got when I searched that. Now, the first link is an Austin, Texas .gov link, which goes to rules for sidewalk protests and demonstrations, which sounds exactly like what I need. But I like to mention the other two because this example isn't so straightforward. The second one is another texas.gov link, which leads to a resource guide for holding protests in Texas. And the third link is another Austin, Texas.gov site that leads to tips on planning and submitting applications for parades. Again,
Melody, I'm so sorry to interrupt you,
hmm.
but I believe you've sent the links to just the host and the panelists and not
Oh,
everyone. You may
oh,
be able to change that. Just let me know if you can.
ah, yes, I see that. So, okay. So the first set of links from my first example, get that in here. And then the current example that I'm talking about now. Thank you, Nev. I was not aware of that.
No problem.
Um, so again, this example is a little less straightforward. The top link was the most relevant, as it just says right on the title, rules for sidewalk protests and demonstrations. Perfect. Um, Honestly, without a permit or not, this is important info to know. Um, the page also has links that may be relevant if you're planning on getting a permit through the city that would involve a march or parade. It also mentions that the state capitol grounds are through another agency and how to contact them. This was actually the first page I came across when looking to organize protests, and it really helped for just the entirety of City Austin. It was through this page that I found the State Preservation Board and how I came to quickly acquire permits throughout the city, whether it be through the city, state, or the Parks and Rec Department. The second link shouldn't be passed up either. It has general know your rights info that everybody needs to know when organizing a protest, permitted or not. And if you are getting a permit and you're not in Austin, well, it has links to most major Texas cities. If I wanted to plan a protest in Amarillo without ever having been there, that is where I would start. The third link just has some useful info, but it's still a decent place to start when looking into a permit for the City of Austin, if only because it's already on the City of Austin's website. That search bar can be used on their page, can be used to search special event permit, and it'll direct you to the right place without having to navigate Google's ad infested hell. And so now the second part is acquiring the permit. This is actually the easy part, unless you've kind of got some social anxiety issues. Um, I've been on a call with 30 plus people from just about every agency in Austin, APD, AFD, city utilities, on and on. And their sole reason for being there for that meeting was to ask me questions about my event. I was at the center of attention, and it kind of feels like a big interview. If that and making phone calls and keeping in contact with liaisons isn't your thing, I might recommend handing the phone over to someone a little bit more social. Now, the basics of acquiring the permit differ from place to place and from agency to agency. Um, and there's no permit that follows the exact same process, but it's all extremely similar. So I'll break it down as if I've never contacted this particular agency or applied for this particular permit before. And so the first part is obviously the search. And I broke it down in the first part. Just start with a search, keep it to a few keywords, nothing too verbose. I don't know exactly what I'm looking for, so I try to keep it generic. No more than 5 words if I can help it. Eventually, I stumble across the correct agency, maybe even the incorrect one. Whatever the case, once I've determined who I think issues the permits, I make a call. And most places do things online these days. I still like to make that call, and that's because I don't want to waste time on the incorrect paperwork or just being in the incorrect place. I can just call the agency and ask out ask point blank, do y'all issue permits for street protests or whatever the event may be? And I've been told a few times, no, this is the wrong agency, but I can connect you to the correct department that does issue those permits. And in those cases, I hang up the phone after a minute or two with another number or an email to send a message to. Um, Once you've got the correct agency and you've talked to somebody, whether it be through email or phone, next comes the paperwork. For the State Preservation Board, you kind of have to make that call first, and then they send you an email with a link as well as um, some information on the rules, basically. But the next step is paperwork. And so the city of Austin really couldn't care less. You can just start putting in information. So again, every agency works a little bit differently. But I still like to call beforehand just to make sure I'm getting the right paperwork because I have done that before and it's a big waste of time and a big old headache. Sometimes the paperwork takes less than 5 minutes to fill out. The State Preservation Board keeps it to 6 very short pages. Other times, like the city of Austin, it ends up taking like 30 minutes because there's so much information that you have to fill out. Whatever the case may be, they might ask for some additional information, such as an evacuation plan, a marching route map, or perhaps a sponsorship form. Just make sure that you know what you need to submit with the paperwork to make it as smooth as possible. Um, and then the fourth step in all of this is the follow-up. Most of the time, these agencies want to know some details about the event, and they might require payments for processing or personnel. In Austin's case, they might want to make you meet up with their alphabet soup of various agencies so they can all ask any questions they might have for you, or make it clear what is and is not allowed. For example, the fire department required us to have a fire extinguisher within 60 feet of any canopies. As long as we had one and it was in a radius, it was fine. But if we had the canopies more than 60 feet apart, then we had to have 2 fire extinguishers to cover them. That's just kind of like the nuance that goes into some of these agencies, and they'll explain it, and you can always ask questions. You may find that some agencies are much more flexible about requirements than others, and most requirements are going to make sense. And again, if they don't, just ask. They're more than happy to answer. That's what they're there for. And that's about it. The permit will be approved, and then it's up to you to uphold any requirements that the permit demands. I've had to ask folks not to sell things or ask for donations during events at the Capitol, for example, because that's something that can endanger any chance of future permits and even risk the event that day being shut down. And once your name is on the application, you assume responsibility for everything that it entails. If that's something that you can't handle, then give the permitting responsibility to someone you can. And if you're doing something like a march, I almost always recommend getting some kind of general liability insurance. Any kinds of marches at the state capitol, for example, will require one just as a matter of policy. So something to look into. They stated on the little list of requirements that they'll send you, and you can always call them and ask questions. Before I end my little spiel, there's just a few tips to anybody looking to acquire permits. The first would be flexible. Be willing to make compromises. You wanted 1,000 balloons, but the city won't let you. Be willing to drop it or find a creative way to replace them. Be tenacious. You might find that a bunch of complications with the requirements that hinder your vision of a protest. This kind of ties into the first tip, but I include it just to say that being flexible doesn't mean that you have to cripple your vision for the sake of the state. I find that if you work fast, a 30-day deadline for the paperwork before the event doesn't always apply. Folks are willing to work with you for a good cause, and you need to show that you are here for that cause and little else. You will find that people will become flexible, they will volunteer flexibility to make your event happen. And finally, be kind. Whether you're dealing with staff, clerk, or even the police, the goal is to make the event happen. Don't step on toes, don't piss people off, tell them thank you very kindly and to have a lovely day. People are much more willing to be flexible when you're kind to them. Build relationships with these folks. Offer them food and water when you see them. Take them out to lunch. When the governor deploys the National Guard, it's extremely useful to have a friend in DPS or APD that is willing to fight on your behalf to their superiors. You'd be surprised at what can be accomplished when people think of you as a friend. And that's about it. Getting a permit isn't hard. It's not a matter of magic or witchcraft. It's just a mix of being able to do the research, talking to the right people, or the wrong people that can point you in the right direction, and sitting down and doing some dreaded paperwork. Honestly, the paperwork tends to be easier to deal with than the people sometimes, so please don't let a few forms discourage you. Even if you're even a little bit sociable like myself, you may even find that you like this work. The people behind the phones at these agencies tend to be kind and want you to hold these events. They're public servants that just want to make their community a little bit better, and that usually means being a friendly face in a decidedly unfriendly bureaucracy. Well, that's my presentation. Thank y'all.
That was wonderful, Melody. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And I know from just seeing all the work that you've done with Hands Off Central Texas that, I mean, seeing the thousands and thousands of people who have arrived at the Capitol for these big mobilization events really goes through, in many cases, the permitting process to get them there. And it's amazing that you've been able to manage that work. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank
As
you
far as
kindly.
Yeah, as far as our next portion of the program, we wanted to solicit questions from the audience in case anyone has any questions for someone who is known as the permitting queen in Austin, Texas. Please feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A box, which should be available to you in
Yes, I
Zoom.
see it.
I also I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask as people kind of consider what those questions would be. I'm not sure, maybe Tracy does as well, but I definitely do, which is first of all, what is a good rule of thumb to know whether or not one needs a permit to protest?
Well, it's important to understand that in most cases, you don't need a permit to protest if it's in a what is considered a public forum, a generally agreed upon public forum. For example, sidewalks. Sidewalks are always considered public, even in front of somebody else's house, unless, of course, they built that sidewalk themselves. Now, that leads into the other thing. How do you know if you need a permit? Well, if it's going to be on government property or private property or in a park and you're expecting a large crowd, generally you're going to need a permit. If you're going to have amplified sound that isn't a bullhorn, you're generally going to need a permit. There are some exceptions in this. I have found that in front of the south gates of the Capitol, you can have a small PA system, something that you can bring along in its entirety in a little cart with a little battery, if you will. Um, that is generally okay. But again, government property, private property, and parks generally require a permit, as do the interiors of buildings. Like the rotunda in the Texas Capitol. If you're going to use, again, amplified sound, that's generally when you need a permit. But otherwise, you can be in the rotunda with a large group of people and you can have speeches or whatever without a permit. So there are exceptions, as long as generally, again, you don't need amplified sound, you don't need screens or something like that. No permit is required.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you so much. Another question from the audience has been, well, it looks like you're typing an answer, but I'm just going to ask you if you're okay with answering it.
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
do you need insurance?
Do you need insurance? It depends on the venue, for and what you're doing. For example, a march down a busy street in Austin, The police will form an escort bubble around you and block off traffic, but there's no guarantee that somebody won't go psychotic and try and run protesters over, or somebody in a protest might faint, and they might blame it on you and try and sue you. Well, that's what insurance is for. So really, it's a risk assessment, and again, some places will require it, like the Capitol. At the Capitol, you don't need insurance if it's a static protest, but if you're marching around the Capitol, that's when you need insurance, and they explicitly detail that. So again, it's just something that depends on the venue and what you're doing.
Got it. Thank you. And we have another question from Deanna. Do you need to provide restrooms?
This one kind of is the same answer. It depends on what your venue is. For example, whenever we were at the Capitol, we generally didn't need to provide bathrooms because bathrooms were already provided by the Capitol, just for the fact of it being open and it being a public space. With private businesses, you either have to obtain permission, um, or they might enforce some kind of like customers only rule. In those cases, then yeah, you're going to want to provide porta potties or some other kind of accommodations. And there was the one time at the Capitol where it was for the No Kings event. They closed down the Capitol building itself, and we had to rush to get 20 porta potties out there. So most of the time, a venue will already have one. Like if you're doing at a park, that will also have bathrooms that are available. You just want to locate your bathrooms beforehand, and if there are none available to the public, that's when you need to provide them.
Got it. And I'll just note that the No Kings event that Melody just referenced was one of the largest mobilization events in American history. Kudos to you for the work you did on that.
Thank you.
And then finally, last question for me is, so much of this was targeted or kind of based on wisdom and experience that comes from Austin. What should people do if they live in like a small town in Oregon and there are not as many online resources that are available for them as they may be for like Austin residents?
Okay. Well, the first thing that I like to do, and I know this is still an online thing, is search up your city's webpage. Like, for example, I think it's San Marcos, Texas.gov, something like that for San Marcos. I would go there first, and even if that doesn't really pull me up anything, the other thing that I can search is San Marcos city government or city hall. And generally, there's going to be a phone number that's provided, and I can call that phone number and ask a staff like, "Hey, I'm looking to do this. Do I need a permit?" That'll work for small municipalities and towns, but if your town happens to have a website, you can also go to their website, go into their web browser search, and search from there, and it'll just pull up results from their website. So you just search a permit and it'll bring you up anything relevant to permits. Now, with a city website, you might end up getting things like digging permit or utility permit. So it's not always going to be relevant permits, but a city website will also have a phone number. You can always call that and explain to a human, "Hey, I'm looking for this." And they'll generally, if they don't know what permit you need, because I called the city of Austin before I applied online, they will send you to someone that does. And that's what happened with the city of Austin. They were like, "Let me direct you to our special events coordinator," who sent me to the right website where I logged in, put up put in their big old freaking permit and got it. Now I just know to go to that website and apply for a permit. So with experience, it definitely helps.
Yeah, it sounds like city government services are there for you to help you, and you might as well make yourself, or avail yourself of their services.
Somebody is getting paid to answer your questions.
Right. Right. Good. Very good.
And just a quick personal note on the side. I remember after the No Kings event, I think it was that night or something, and we were all sort of in our signal chat decompressing, and everybody was saying, "Oh, Melody's, such a queen and everything's so good." And your answer was, "Just doing my job." And my answer to that was yours and 4 other people's. So I will say from personal experience that Melody is a get her done kind of gal. So
Thank y'all.
Well, thank you so much, Melody, for joining us again. And good luck with all of your future work with Hands Off Central Texas.
Thank you.
As far as our next portion of the program, we're going to go into a breakout group where folks will be invited to respond to the question, when might it make sense to seek a permit to protest and when might it not? We just want you to be able to reflect on that a little bit and how would that affect your organizing? So, welcome back. We are now going to do a Menti question, just essentially asking you the same question we posed for your breakout group, just to see what kind of bubbled up for you. Maybe you heard some interesting things, maybe you reflected on them in that period. So I'm going to open up the Menti application and share my screen, which invites you to go to menti.com. So maybe you have a device near you, like a phone or tablet, and you can open up your browser on your phone, for example, and go to menti.com. When you get there, put in code 89269773 and then click join. And it asks you the question, when might it make sense to seek a permit to protest and when might it not? How would that affect your organizing? So please do consider that question and write in your response. I'll also write in mine shortly. Just give me 20 seconds. I'll kind of verbalize how I'm thinking about this because I remember Melody saying government property, parks, interior of buildings. So that's what I'm going to write. Let's see if it comes on through. Whoa. Okay. It came on through just like that. Amazing. No permits. Let's see when else. I think the operative phrase was public venues or public spaces like sidewalks. Great. We have some other comments saying always double check if you're probably if you're not sure. Not for a small public space like a sidewalk protest, probably yes for a larger event or one on private or government property. When you want to get police on your side, interesting. The way I understand it, if you're going to hold a very small protest on a sidewalk, you don't need a permit. Otherwise, you pretty much do. That seems like an interesting rule of thumb that may be appropriate to follow. Okay, appreciate all those comments. And finally, well, we've got a lot more, so I'm just going to keep going. I'm not going to be able to read all those, so I'm going to stop sharing, or I'm going to move on to our next segment now. Thanks everyone for sharing. So next we have a speaker who's joining us tonight, Lucy Larkin. And I'm just going to introduce Lucy and invite Lucy to come on stage when they're ready. Looks like Lucy's on. Awesome. So I'm just going to briefly introduce Lucy and then go through what we're calling a fireside chat. There literally is no fire here, but we're still going to figure out how to do this regardless with Lucy present. So proud of their rural roots in Minnesota, Lucy has truly found their home in Washington State thanks to a deep connection to the vast biodiversity of the state. Lucy first found a group called Backbone Campaign in March of 2022 through the Human Orca mural event and was captivated from there. Lucy's connection to activism stems from a deep connection to the southern resident killer whales and therefore wild salmon. Lucy understands the pivotal role that salmon play for the environment and for everything that we can learn from the indigenous communities and their relatives, the orca. Lucy loves connecting with people of all different backgrounds, and they thank their theater training for the ability to do so. Lucy is passionate about making the world a better place and that love always conquers. Thank you, Lucy, for joining us today.
Thanks, Nevin. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, for sure. So today, folks, we're going to focus on one of the most iconic, in some ways, forms of creative protest, which is highway bannering. And we have here the Artful Activism Coordinator for the Backbone Campaign. And if you've never heard of the Backbone Campaign, I urge you to Google it and check them out. They're amazing, and they've done work with organizers all around the country, especially in the Pacific Northwest. And they specialize in high visibility actions like highway bannering and other things like flotillas and things that I'm still learning about, frankly. So our conversation, I'm hoping, will explore not only the art and logistics of bannering, but also like kind of the deeper questions of like how visibility builds power. So, let us begin with your story, Lucy. What first drew you into banners as a form of activism?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a unique and powerful tactic. I would say, and it kind of connects with the aspect of why I love Backbone campaign so much. And like I said, how I found Backbone was because it gave everyday people a tool to have a voice. It was a great way to just be able to stand up, say, hey, I have this message, and to have a protest like outside of like the major protests. And I love the aspect that was shared earlier of the sidewalks, because that connects very much into overpass bannering. And that is why overpass bannering is completely legal, is because they are on public sidewalks. But yes, the biggest aspect that drew me to it was this ability to stand up and to have a voice. And it didn't take very many people either. Depending on the message, it could be one person, it could be up to 4 people, and that's all you needed, and you could be able to reach thousands upon thousands of people that are passing in traffic, depending on the time of day, obviously. So the bannering that we do here, we definitely try to hit during rush hour. I was like, what's the word? um and so literally, crawling traffic, it's not the greatest when it's 70 miles an hour, zooming down the road, when it's backed up especially. And then many people will be able to see that message, and you can reach so many people. So that's, yeah, the ability to have a voice, and the ability to reach so many people that you might not be able to otherwise.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lucy. That's a great kind of lead into this segment, and I really appreciate that context that you gave, particularly around the idea that like highway bannering or overpass bannering, as you referred to it, is like it's like a really high impact way of using a sidewalk. Like it's actually you're using the sidewalk. It's amazing,
Yep.
and you're
Yep.
letting thousands or hundreds of thousands or hundreds or thousands of people see your message, which is really amazing. Um, all right, cool. So as far as like some very memorable banner actions that you've done, like do any come to mind that over the years you're like, oh man, that was amazing. I can't believe we did that. Like anything you'd like to
Yeah.
share?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's been a lot, but obviously the one that really sticks out to me, I think it was literally January 23rd of this year, that we got too comfortable, the last 4 years, just kind of did, bannering, and it was bannering. But like this year, it's bannering.
Yeah.
And so January 23rd, we were, tired of all the stuff that we were hearing coming out, fed up. Literally it was what, three of us, staff members, and then one of our super volunteers. We took to one overpass with "Immigrants Make America Great." And then it went viral on social media, and it was used on multiple different
That
different
was you guys?
accounts. Yeah, that was us.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
So
remember that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's us. Yeah, I'm literally in that picture. I'm looking, I'm the left-hand side person.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we were like, holy cow, like we weren't even like ready for it too. And we were like, oh my God, it's over here. Oh my God, it's over here. And so like what I just said about the aspect of the reach, so the people that saw it real time, and then you multiply it by all the people that saw it. Granted, a lot of people didn't know it was us, but that's okay because it's the message that's important anyways. But yeah, that's like the biggest thing is that image that you're going for. And that's, I guess, another reason why I love bannering, and the overall aspect too, I would feel like is what you're really going for, is, that visual anchor, that, powerful image to really just, I don't know, ignite somebody or to like really make a statement. Um, I haven't seen a picture of it yet, but it might be it was one of my bannering groups today. Their banner was "Sanity makes America great." It might have had almost as great of a reach. So it's just it's free speech. It's this ability to be loud and proud.
Yeah.
And yeah, just to get out there. Oh, it was, yeah, so definitely that one, that first Immigrants Make America Great. It was, hit, it was iconic. Yeah, we're like backlit, so you can't really tell that it's our normal orange letters.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's us.
That's amazing. Yeah, I we actually do a little bit of bannering in Austin as well with a few different groups. There's one group that I have to acknowledge that goes by the name of Indivisible Rosedale Huddle, and they
Mm,
do banners on a couple of different highway overpasses in Austin. And one of the leaders of that group described the experience as like writing a haiku because you can only fit so many letters and words, right? And you're like, how do I
yep,
send a message in like 4 or 5 to 7 words, right? Like, and it's
yep,
just
yep,
really, really like you got to be super like concise and use a lot of brevity and like a
yep,
lot of clever phrases and stuff. So, um,
yep.
there's an
Yeah,
art,
it's such a
there's a real
challenge.
art. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. And to make it, you really want to make it the shorter the better because you only have like so much time. I know there's some people out there that I've talked to that are like, oh, it has to be, yay high at going whatever speed. But I'm like, well, make sure you banner when it's, slow traffic, and I'm like slow traffic. So yeah, there's a lot of people that get like super technical and whatever. But yes, with the messaging aspect, like sometimes people will come to me with this long one and I'm like, no, make it
yeah,
shorter.
yeah. Make it shorter. Yeah,
And yeah, I almost think of it like slogans too, of,
yeah,
just hitting right to the point. And we love we like to call it "What Actually Makes America Great" series. And we literally just like flip out that first word. So immigrants, sanity, which we're kind of being a little funny. But we've done diversity, equity, inclusion, and it's that play on their slogan, their motto, whatever,
yeah,
and it's like, oh, what actually, is makes it great.
yeah.
So yeah, that's probably our favorite ones we've done.
That's really cool. All right, so if we're gonna get like nuts and bolts, like, okay, if I'm like gonna be bannering, I want to banner next Friday morning, rush hour traffic in the morning, and I have nothing with me right now. I have no tools. What do I do? Like, how do I actually do this?
No, I love that. And so that's why specifically backbones materials, we always try, we make it readily available, right? We don't gatekeep. And ours is just like a system and a method that's very reusable. It's, and not not narking on anybody else or anything, but whatever system works for everybody, but ours is easily reusable, and we can make a banner and we could just take it apart. So our materials are a form of fencing, whether that's deer fencing is the one that we use at our warehouse, but you can also get like a smaller fencing that I want to say is 4 by 100, 4 foot tall by 100 foot roll. You can get
Hmm.
that at like Lowe's. And then we use orange because it is highly visible, but it's tarp. And so we even have our stencils on our website that you can, print them out, and you can trace and make letters. And then we use twist ties to attach the letters, the hole punches on the letters, and then we twist tie through through those letters to attach them to the fencing. And so, it's not something that you got to order from China and to wait. It's stuff that's easily, readily available, that you can pull together, and just be able to use. We've even had somebody modify our, 2 to 3 pole banners down to like a 1-person banner, with, PVC, the fencing in between, and then the letters, and then there's like a tall pole that holds it. Excuse me. So yeah, it's reusable, easily available, just materials that are iconic and really, really have a visual impact.
Nice. And so like what is like the basic entry level cost for someone or a group of people who want to get into bannering? Like how much
Yeah. No, that's a
that
good
would be for
question.
you guys?
I don't my easiest answer for that is we actually put together and curate the materials for bannering starting at 175. And that's us not making any money on it. We're trying to make it all one-stop shop for the most part. We don't include the poles because they're
Yeah.
a pain in the butt to ship. So, and that's our starting price point that we ask for. And because we are a nonprofit, and we survive on donations, it's just to reimburse for the cost of the supplies. So I would say it's, one, and I will say also too, we work with people. We want these tools out in communities. We want this stuff to be readily available and easily available. And so those poles run about like $40 a piece. But I will say, depending on your overpass, you don't necessarily need these poles. We use the paint roller extension poles. So they are like 8 feet, they start, but then they expand to like 23 feet. But you don't need those. We've had people use PVC. We've had PVC quite a bit. We've had people use bamboo. So anything that you can, set it on to make it nice and tight and to be easily readable. So that's essentially like my answer for that. But
And
you
these are
could,
reusable, right? Like you can,
yeah,
this not like a one-time use. This is like you can reuse
yeah,
it, reuse it.
reusable. Yeah,
Yeah,
we have literally libraries of letters that we just pull from, put
yeah.
them on a new banner. We have a library of banners now because everything's still so relevant. So it's like, let's send this one out again. Let's send this one out again. Because we do weekly bannering. I will say also too, we do have on our website, we have I believe 2 of our banner workshops that we've done. So we offer free online training of our banner workshops. I'm actually working on, we just had our last one on Monday, had to look at the calendar for a second. And so that's another aspect that we offer. We offer these available, the materials available. We train people, we do this for free to be able to provide the tools for everyday people to have a voice. And so I encourage anybody who's interested in that, backbonecampaign.org/banners has multiple, of our workshops on there. And yeah, we'll probably do another one just because it's been such a huge hit. We don't have one currently on the calendar, but probably in September. But we've done, I think, 10 of those and had thousands of people from all over the country that have taken it. Yeah, we love it. It's so exciting. People are excited about it. And we like to say it's currently the gateway activist tool. And then we have all these other ones that we can share and teach as well.
Nice, nice. I love that. I love that. So I'm reflecting on a couple of times when I've done some overpass bannering, and like a couple of times, we've gotten a few, and we've gotten a lot of honks, like hundreds of honks, right, in support. A couple of times you get some middle fingers. Sometimes people will like roll coal or whatever it's called, or like they'll like
Oh,
pump
yep,
the exhaust underneath the
yep,
overpass. Like some of these 18-wheelers do that, and you're like, oh
yep.
man, this is totally unnecessary. So that kind of leads me into a question of like, okay, what are some of the risks, whether they're if that come to mind that are legal, safety, or logistical that come with bannering, and how do you prepare people for those?
No, that's such a great question. So there's definitely people that try to say that it is illegal. But through Backbone's 22 years, they we have come to find that it is a fully legal activity. But that's not to say you'll get people trying to challenge that. We even recently had a group up in Bellingham, Washington, which is north of us, that had a state patrol officer, I think, try to say that it was illegal and show like a statute that was in fact for advertising. So a lot of any groups that do advertising and what they can do with their signage. So because this is a free speech activity and it is like the previous segment, it's on a public sidewalk, it is protected free speech as long as you do not drape over the overpass, like a banner drop. That's why we don't use banner drop. We don't drape anything. We're standing right next to. And if you attach anything, and those are pretty universal across the states. I do encourage anyone to, double check and make sure. I believe there's some other states that are trying to pass something else. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly where. I want to say maybe Tennessee was trying to do something. And through these connections that I've made this year. But a lot of people will try to say that it is illegal. So, being prepared to really know your research. We also, I have to find it again, but I believe we have a specific letter that does support that aspect of free speech that if anyone's interested, Nevin, I can get that to you later. That we've had to resurrect, especially with this issue with the group that came to us. They tried to literally shut them down. But it is free speech. And then I would say I already forgot the rolling coal, those haters.
Yeah.
Those people, I would say definitely try to not engage, but it's I've heard of other people coming up. There's this other group that had people come up. I think they were in Colorado. That some guy came up that was angry and broke out a knife and was cutting their, tarp banners.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's definitely safety is a top priority. So I would say, definitely not to, fight back type thing. It's not worth it. And to not engage, or especially if you get people, with the flipping the birds. We even have some of our banners that love to blow kisses back to those people, literally from the overpass. And so it just, kind of it's not engaging at their level type of thing.
Yeah.
And so especially it's you're flipping off democracy, not dictatorship. Like what? You want a dictatorship? Yeah, so yeah, definitely not engaging, knowing and having your research, still checking your state info to see if they have anything. I believe that originally was found because of a group in Texas that was actually having issues. And then it came to be found that it was pretty universal across all states. And we have heard from people that have gotten in trouble from attaching things to overpasses. So that's why we always say, don't attach anything, but to definitely know your stuff. Yeah, and then always making safety a top priority. And you have to, if it's too windy and you feel like you can't hold on to the banner, don't banner. You don't want anything falling into the road. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's still not worth damaging anything or hurting someone by any means.
Got it. So don't drop over the overpass, don't attach to the overpass, be careful of weather, and then also maybe be careful of your message of provoking people a little too far, right? Like that's
Yeah.
also
Yep. And with the messaging too, we always say, you know, really work to make it unassailable so that if, you know, people are attacking that message, they look like the assholes.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, immigrants make America great, you know, you're gonna attack that? Cool. Yeah, okay. And
I got you.
sanity makes America great. Oh, okay. You like being insane. All right, cool. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, that was a really, really, really helpful dialogue for me anyway, and I'm sure for everyone who's watched our present or our interaction today. So thank you so much, Lucy, for sharing with us your wisdom. I'm gonna just shift right now gears a little bit because we typically don't have time to go into Q&A, but let me just see if anything has floated up. Um, yeah, we do have a couple of questions. Let me just see if I can ask one thing. Uh, can big cloth banners without pipes or fencing be used for overpasses? That's one question I can ask, and then the rest we should probably move on to the next. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. So, and that is also a great reason as to why we use the fencing, is because a big cloth banner with nothing for the air to come through will turn into a big sail. And especially, you know, even if it's not windy, some of those overpasses get just a lot of wind, you know, whether it's you know, how the city is shaped and it just kind of, you know, sends air a certain way. With our fencing method, it allows the air to pass through it. It literally, in a picture, looks like it's just the letters. Granted, the poles are there as well. But I can't tell you what you should and shouldn't do, but that's why we don't do cloth banners, is because of the sale effect. I think there are people out there that still do you know, cloth banners, and they will try to do perforations through them. But it's still a lot more fabric than the fencing is. So that's why we've gone with our method.
Got you. Got you. All right. Well, I don't think we have time for any more questions, but again, I just want to thank you so much, Lucy, for sharing your time with us today. I love that, like, you kind of went on a limb for us. We didn't know each other, but you totally agreed to come on to tonight's webinar. So I'm very grateful for this, and this has been really, 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 really informative. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen of the breakout group that we're going to have in just a second, and let people know that, hey, just imagine you're planning a banner drop in your city, and we want to invite you to have the discussion of where would you place it and what's the message that you would share. All right, here we are. Hopefully, thank you, Richard. Hopefully that breakout room was excellent. We've got a little Menti question for you. Imagine you're planning a banner drop in your city. Where would you place it and what's the message? Basically, the same question we asked you in your breakout room. We're just kind of wondering what you would like to share with us based on maybe what you thought about, reflected on, or heard. Go back to Menti if you would, and you might be able to just open up your same browser on your device. If not, go to menti.com and use the code 89269773 and try and answer that question. Imagine you're planning a banner drop in your city. Where would you place it and what's the message? I'm going to write my own answer as well. People can probably guess who just entered the first posting. Trump's got to go. That's mine. Maybe I should just do resist Trump. I'm not really sure. Love to hear what people have to say in addition to that. All right, on a busy street, peaceful and pissed. Nice. At a busy major intersection or on an overpass, democracy means all of us win. I love that. Not many bridges near me, so I do it at a T intersection. Okay. Make America kind again. That's beautiful. Near the 130 overpass. Nice. Awesome, y'all. Well, keep thinking about that. We're almost at the end of tonight's call. So let's go back to our slides and see what else we've got. Okay. So here's something that we've got. Let me just pull up my notes in the background to make sure I know what I'm doing. I think right now we actually wanted to turn on the chat so that to let people be able to interact with each other. So I am now turning on the chat, and you can make announcements and breathe a sigh of relief in the chat if you'd like. But in the meantime, I'm going to be letting you know that we are going to challenge you to bring someone with you to next week's webinar if you attend. Next week's going to be great. We're going to be talking about advanced media techniques and including framing narratives and defining opponents, like really advanced stuff that can be really helpful for you as an organizer of a pod or a chapter or an affiliate. And coordinating the efforts of volunteer activists who have strong creative skills, or maybe you have strong creative skills yourself. I don't, so I have to coordinate the people who do, and that is something I really enjoy, and that I'm hoping that folks can reflect on and learn from in the next webinar. All right, as far as the other things we have going on, we have the Google Classroom, which is a great place to interact, where you might find some additional questions to deepen your learning. We have our leadership lab that takes place on Tuesday nights. And then we have the Discord, which is our which is our other place where you can interact with people in our community. We have, I think, over 400 members on our Discord server, and it's growing every day. It's a great place to build community online and develop relationships in the movement, and we definitely encourage you to check out the Discord. All of the QR codes are in links that I've just put in the chat, so you should be able to access them there.
Just a quick note, if you don't mind me jumping in here. The Leadership Lab, just so you know what that is. In general, what we do is we meet, and anybody's welcome. We meet together and discuss this webinar and what's in the past, what's coming up, and we discuss how we can tweak it to make it better, different ideas to add or subtract. And basically, it's kind of a workshop on working on the webinar itself. It's very interesting, and we welcome all kinds of new ideas.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Tracy. Yeah, it's a great place to really help us refine and improve this webinar experience, and we welcome everyone, including new joiners, to join. And people join every week. We got a question in the chat. What is Google Classroom? And it's like a learning management system. Definitely encourage you to check it out, Dora, if you are interested in learning more about it. Yeah, so next we have our presence on a number of different websites. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page now that we probably should update that with. We have an Instagram, YouTube, Discord, Meetup, Blue Sky. And we want to finish tonight's webinar with a final mentee question, which is, what feedback do you have about tonight's webinar? Feel free to drop in your thoughts there. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next mentee in the series. Let me see if I can do this right. Nope, that's not right. Let me see if I can do this correctly. Whoops. Okay. I think I've got to go here and then present. And you should be good to go. So thanks again for your contributions tonight. If you just go to menti.com and go to 8926 9773, we should be able to see some of your feedback. I'm going to stop the share just so we can keep that feedback private for all of the people involved and share it internally. But please do feel free to share your feedback. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I just want to thank all of the people involved with tonight's webinar, starting with Melody Tremolo, who came and spoke with us about permits, Lucy Larkin, who spoke to us about overpass bannering. I want to thank Richard Procida and Braden for being our breakout room facilitators. I want to thank my co-moderator, Tracy, And most of all, I want to thank you for coming tonight, because you are what makes this movement amazing, and you are what's going to make this movement succeed. Is people like you stepping up to start resist pods and chapters and affiliates and doing resistance activities of your own, setting up protests and showing Trump and his enablers that we do not consent to the way that he is governing this country. Thank you for doing what you do, and let's keep up the fight, y'all. Thank you so much, and have a good night.